He protected the alien child with his life. Their guardian couldn't resist him. The child's pulse hammered against Owen's fingertips, too fast and too weak at once. Her skin held warmth he hadn't expected, and the emerald tone shifted in the medical bay's harsh lighting, revealing faint patterns beneath the surface. "Hey there," he said, keeping his voice low. "I've got you. You're safe now." The Verdani girl couldn't have been more than 7 by human standards. What mattered was the way she gripped his wrist with both small hands, her luminous green eyes fixed on his face with desperate intensity. She hadn't spoken since the perimeter team found her collapsed near the settlement's eastern boundary, but her gaze communicated everything: terror, exhaustion, and beneath it all, a plea for protection. Owen ran the scanner along her spine, frowning at the readings. Elevated stress markers, muscle deterioration, severe dehydration, no injuries, no disease. This child had been running for a long time. "Let's get some fluids in you." He reached for the IV kit, then paused. The girl's fingers tightened on his wrist, her breathing quickening. Owen set the equipment down and pulled his chair closer. "No needles yet. First, we're going to get you something to drink." She blinked once, slowly, and the pressure on his wrist eased. He spent the next hour coaxing her through basic care, water first, delivered in small sips. Food came next, nutrient paste she approached with suspicion until he mimed eating first. Her trust, when it came, felt fragile and precious. The scar across his temple itched, the way it always did when his instincts screamed warning. Lost Verdani children didn't just wander into human colonies. The species kept meticulous records. Which meant she wasn't lost. She was running. Owen pulled up the settlement's communication logs. Nothing unusual until 3 hours ago, when a Priority 1 transmission had come through from Verdani space. Request for information regarding unregistered juvenile Verdani. The reply from Commander Torvin's office had been appropriately vague. Owen looked at the child. At Senna, according to the genetic markers his scanner had pulled. She'd fallen asleep sitting up, one hand still extended toward where he sat. His quarters were small but private, attached to the medical bay through a connecting door most people forgot existed. Owen scooped Senna into his arms, feeling her weight settle against his chest. She didn't wake, but her breathing steadied when he laid her on his bed and pulled the thermal blanket over her. The medical bay door chimed 16 minutes later. Owen sealed the connecting door and smoothed his expression before triggering the entrance. The woman who entered moved with a predator's economy. Her tactical gear was matte black, form-fitted to a frame that balanced strength with innate elegance. But it was her face that made Owen's breath catch. Sharp cheekbones and full lips set in smooth emerald skin that held subtle luminescence. Her eyes were jade, large and expressive despite the cold assessment in her gaze. Dark hair pulled back revealed delicately pointed ears. She was the most beautiful thing he'd ever seen, and every alarm in his head was ringing. "Dr. Hale." Her voice carried melodic quality beneath crisp formality. "I am Captain Vesha Kine of the Verdani Enforcement Corps. We have reason to believe a juvenile Verdani citizen entered this facility." 3 armed enforcers filed in behind her. Owen leaned against the examination table. "I've treated 6 patients today. None of them were Verdani children. Our sensors indicate Verdani biological signatures in this structure. This is a xenobiology research station. Half the settlement works with Verdani samples." He met her gaze steadily. "You'll need authorization from colonial authority. I have diplomatic clearance that supersedes local protocols." She moved closer, and Owen caught her scent, ozone and mint, sharp and clean. "The child's name is Senna. She is classified as a dangerous anomaly requiring immediate containment." "Dangerous how? That information is restricted." "Then I can't help you." Owen pushed off the table, stepping into her space. She was tall, nearly matching his height, and she didn't retreat. "I'm a medic. I don't hand over patients to anyone who can't tell me what they're protecting them from." Something flickered in those jade eyes. Her posture remained controlled, but he'd spent years reading people under pressure. She shifted her weight almost imperceptibly, and he realized he'd made her uncertain. "You demonstrate the emotional volatility humans are known for," Vesha said, but her tone lacked conviction. "Senna requires containment protocols designed for empathic anomalies." "So she's empathic. Owen connected it to the way Senna had seemed to read his intentions. And you consider that dangerous? We consider it uncontrolled. Vesha's jaw tightened. Verdani's civilization is built on emotional discipline. Senna's condition represents a threat to that foundation, or a challenge to your assumptions. One of the enforcers shifted, hand moving toward his weapon, but Vesha raised one hand in a gesture that froze him. "You will submit to a facility search," she said, steel in her voice now. "Enforcer Rez, sweep the medical bay and attached structures." Owen watched them move through his space, overturning equipment, scanning walls. Vesha stood 3 meters away, her gaze never leaving him. Senna was behind one door, one barrier between her and people who spoke of containment like mercy. Then the air changed. Pressure against his skull, like standing too close to a powerful electromagnet. Owen's vision blurred at the edges, and suddenly he wasn't in the medical bay. He was inside raw terror, childish and overwhelming, the feeling of being hunted by something vast. His knees buckled. Across the room, Vesha staggered. Her hand shot out to brace against the wall, and for one moment her controlled facade shattered. Her eyes went wide, her breath coming in sharp gasps, and Owen saw her exactly as she was, someone who'd forgotten how to feel and was drowning in the sudden return of it. The sensation vanished. Owen was moving before conscious thought caught up, crossing to the connecting door. Senna sat in the center of his bed, trembling, her skin flickering with patterns of light. He gathered her into his arms without hesitation, holding her close while he murmured reassurances. "It's all right, I've got you, nobody's going to hurt you." Footsteps behind him. Owen looked up to find Vesha in the doorway, weapon drawn but not aimed. She stared at them, at him holding the child, at Senna's small hands fisted in his shirt, at the way he'd positioned himself between her and any threat. "She's terrified," Owen said quietly. "Whatever you think she is, right now she's a scared kid who needs protection, and I will protect her, with my life if necessary." Vesha's weapon lowered slowly. She took one step into the room, then another, moving with caution. But her gaze wasn't on him, it was fixed on Senna, and Owen saw something in her expression that looked like recognition. The child raised her head from Owen's chest. Her luminous eyes met Vesha's jade ones, and instead of fear, Owen felt Senna's posture shift toward something else, hope. Vesha holstered her weapon with shaking hands. "Senna is classified as an empathic anomaly," she said, and her voice had lost its edge. Her abilities allow her to share emotional states with others in proximity. The Verdani High Council deemed her condition a threat. She was to be placed in isolation for study. "Isolation?" Owen's arms tightened. "You mean a cage?" "I mean survival." But Vesha's gaze didn't leave Senna's face. Her parents refused to surrender her. They were executed for sedition. The words landed like physical blows. Owen looked down at Senna, at this child who'd lost everything and still reached out with hope, and felt something settle into certainty. "Then I'm not letting you take her." Vesha's eyes snapped to his, and for 3 heartbeats they stared at each other. He saw her struggle, saw duty war with something else, something new and uncertain and possibly more dangerous than any weapon she carried. "You cannot stop me, Dr. Hale." "Maybe not." He stood, still holding Senna, and faced her fully. "But you'll have to go through me to get her, and I don't think you want to." The silence stretched. Behind Vesha, Enforcer Rees appeared in the doorway, weapon ready. Vesha raised one hand and her enforcer froze. "We will continue this discussion aboard my vessel," she said finally. "Both of you." The explosion tore through the settlement's eastern perimeter at 2:47 hours. The impact shook Vesha's vessel hard enough to throw Owen against the bulkhead as he twisted to shield Senna. "Stay down," he said, guiding her beneath the bunk's reinforced frame before activating the comm. "Kane, what's happening?" "Corporate mercenaries, ground assault on the colony, they're after Senna." A pause. "Dr. Hale, I need you armed and mobile. My crew will secure the child." "No." Owen pulled his tactical vest from the locker. "She stays with me or she stays with you. Nobody else." Static crackled, then Vesha's voice quieter. "Deck 3, Section 7, bring her." Owen scooped Senna into his arms and moved through corridors, humming with defensive systems, cycling up. Vesha stood in the tactical bay, her form encased in combat armor that made her look lethal. She turned as Owen entered, and for a fraction of a second, something crossed her face. Relief, maybe approval, before the professional mask returned. Mercenaries breached the colony's northern wall, she said, projecting a tactical display. 4 assault teams, approximately 60 personnel. They're willing to burn through civilians to reach her. Then we go down there. Owen kept one hand on Senna's shoulder. Stop them before they commit a massacre. We are enforcement, not military, but Vesha's jaw was tight. Our mandate is to secure Senna and extract. Your mandate is whatever you decide it is. Owen met her gaze. You felt what she felt earlier. Are you really going to let people die because your orders say to stay out of it? Vesha's hand moved to her weapon, fingers drumming once. Behind her, Enforcer Rez cleared his throat. Captain, our priority is clear. The settlement's defense is not our concern. The settlement contains the only witnesses to Senna's arrival, Vesha said, and Owen recognized the shift. Rationalization wrapped around a decision already made. We cannot allow mercenaries to eliminate evidence. Prepare 2 assault teams. We engage. They hit the colony perimeter 12 minutes later. Owen stayed close to Vesha, Senna secured in a protective carrier on his back. Mercenaries had pushed into the residential sector, and pulse fire echoed through prefab structures. Vesha moved through the chaos like she was born to it. Fluid, precise, lethal. She dropped 2 mercs with shots that barely seemed aimed before sliding behind cover. Owen provided covering fire, his combat medic training making him adequate but nowhere near her level. When a mercenary rounded the corner with weapon raised toward him, Vesha was there first, her blade finding the gap in his armor. She didn't look at Owen as she moved past, but he saw the tension in her shoulders, the way she positioned herself between him and the heaviest fire. They found Commander Torvin and 24 civilians barricaded in the community center. Torvin looked at Owen and Senna, then at Vesha, and his expression went complicated. Dr. Hale, I see you've chosen sides. I chose her. Owen nodded toward Senna. Everything else is just noise. Torvin's mouth twitched. The mercenaries have the administrative building and communications array. They're jamming signals and demanding we turn over the Verdani child. How many? Vesha asked. 30, maybe more. Heavy weapons, military-grade shields. Vesha studied Torvin's tactical projection, eyes tracking approaches and angles. We can breach from 3 points simultaneously. Draw their fire while a secondary team secures the communications array. With respect, Captain, Rez said, we have our primary objective, engaging further risks. I gave you an order, Enforcer. Vesha's voice dropped to something cold and absolute. Prepare your team. As enforcers moved to positions, Vesha turned to Owen. You should remain here with the civilians. Should. Owen shifted Senna's weight, but I'm not going to. You are not trained for assault operations. I'm trained to keep people alive under fire. That's exactly what I'm going to do. He studied her face, seeing the conflict there. You can order me to stay, but we both know I won't listen. She reached out and adjusted his tactical vest, fingers brushing his collarbone as she checked the seal. The touch lingered. Stay behind me, she said quietly. If you die protecting her, she will feel it. That trauma could destabilize her completely. Then I won't die. Something that might have been a smile ghosted across Vesha's lips. Human confidence borders on delusion. Verdani caution borders on cowardice. The smile became real for half a second. Then it was gone and she was moving, weapon ready, and Owen followed. The assault was brutal and efficient. Vesha's teams hit the administrative building from 3 angles, while Owen worked toward the communications array with 2 Verdani enforcers. They reached it to find 4 mercenaries in heavy armor. Pulse rounds tore through the air. One of the Verdani enforcers went down. Owen was moving before thought, dragging the wounded enforcer behind cover and pulling medical supplies from his kit. Stay still, he said, working quickly to seal the wound while pulse fire continued overhead. The enforcer stared at him with wide eyes, probably shock that a human was bothering to save him. The mercenaries advanced. Owen finished the seal, grabbed his weapon, and returned fire. Then Vesha was there, emerging from a flanking position to drop 3 hostiles. The 4th got his weapon up, finger tightening on the trigger aimed at Owen. Vesha moved between them. Her shield absorbed the blast, but the impact drove her back into Owen, and for a moment they were pressed together, her back against his chest, both breathing hard. He felt the heat of her through the armor, smelled that scent of ozone and mint. The mercenary went down. Vesha straightened, putting distance between them, but her hand found his wrist and squeezed once. Acknowledgement, maybe gratitude, possibly something else. They took the administrative building in less than 10 minutes. Vesha stood in the center of the operation, coordinating extraction and civilian support. Owen watched her shift from enforcer to protector without seeming to realize it. Commander Torvin approached. "You have my gratitude, Captain Kane, and my word that we'll provide full testimony regarding the child." Vesha inclined her head. "Senna will remain in protective custody aboard my vessel. Dr. Hale has proven essential to her stability. He will remain with us." Back aboard Vesha's ship, Owen settled Senna in their quarters and watched her fall into exhausted sleep. He was washing blood from his hands when the door chimed. Vesha stood in the corridor, armor removed but posture still rigid. "I came to check on Senna's condition." "She's asleep." Owen dried his hands, noting the way Vesha's gaze tracked the movement. "Physically unharmed." Vesha nodded but didn't leave. She moved into the cabin, approaching the bunk where Senna slept. She stood there for a long moment, watching the child breathe. "You asked me to use her name," Vesha said quietly. "Why does that matter?" "Because she's a person, not a classification." Owen moved to stand beside her, close enough that their shoulders almost touched. "Every time you call her Senna instead of the anomaly, you're treating her like she deserves to be treated." Verdani culture does not emphasize individual identity the way yours does. "And how's that working out for you?" Vesha turned to face him, and in the cabin's low light, her eyes seemed to glow. "You judge what you do not understand." "I understand that your people killed her parents for loving her too much to give her up. I understand that you've been taught to view emotions as weakness when they're actually what makes life worth living." Owen held her gaze. "And I understand that you're starting to question whether everything you were taught is true." "You presume too much, Dr. Hale." "Owen, and I presume exactly the right amount, Vesha." He watched her react to the use of her name. "You put yourself between me and weapons fire today. You diverted resources to protect civilians when your orders were to extract. You're standing here making sure Senna is safe when you could have sent any crew member." "I am thorough in my duties." "You're feeling something you don't have a name for." Owen took a half step closer. "Your culture taught you to suppress it, but that doesn't make it go away. It just makes you lonely." Vesha's hand came up, and for a moment he thought she might strike him. Instead, her palm pressed flat against his chest, right over his heart. Her skin was warm, and he felt his pulse jump. "Human physiology," she said, but her voice had gone soft. "Elevated heart rate, increased respiration. These are stress responses. Some of them," Owen covered her hand with his, "some of them are something else." She pulled away as though burned, retreating 3 steps. "You will remain aboard this vessel during our transit to Verdani space. I will require your expertise to keep Senna stable." "Vesha, Captain Kane." Her voice had gone cold. "We are not friends. We are not allies. I am an officer executing my lawful duty, and you are a human who interfered with that duty. Whatever you believe you saw today, you are mistaken." She turned toward the door, but Owen saw the tension in her shoulders, the way her hands had formed fists. "I don't think I am," he said quietly. Vesha stopped at the threshold. "We reach Verdani space in 36 hours. After that, all decisions regarding Senna's future will be made by Director Vorum and the High Council. My role and yours will be concluded." The door sealed behind her, leaving Owen alone with the sleeping child and the certainty that everything Vesha had just said was a lie she desperately wanted to believe. 30 hours had passed since Vesha walked out, and Owen hadn't seen her since. Crew members delivered meals and monitored Senna, but Vesha had vanished into the command structure like a ghost. Senna pressed against his side at the viewport. "She's afraid," the child whispered. Owen looked down. "Who?" "The captain. She feels like she's falling." Owen's chest tightened. He thought about Vesha's face in the dim lighting, the way her hand had pressed against his chest, the raw vulnerability when she'd pulled away. Yeah, she was afraid. The door chimed. Dr. Chen's voice came through. "Dr. Hale, I need to speak with you." Chen entered, wearing rumpled coveralls, expression urgent. She pulled a data chip from her pocket. Vorum's correspondence, classified files. Senna's parents were murdered because they discovered what Vorum was planning. Owen's hand tightened on Senna's shoulder. Which was? To weaponize her abilities. She could bridge emotional gaps between species or be used for mass manipulation. The facility isn't for study, it's for conditioning. Owen looked at Senna, rage settling cold. Does Vesha know? Chen pressed the chip into his palm. She needs to see this. Owen tucked Senna into bed, then made his way to Vesha's quarters. He pressed his palm to the panel. Captain, it's Owen. I have information you need to see. The lock disengaged. Vesha stood wearing a black undershirt and tactical pants, hair loose past her shoulders. She looked exhausted, shadows under those jade eyes. I told you to remain in your quarters? Owen held up the chip. It's everything about Senna's case, the real story. You expect me to review unauthorized intelligence? Before you hand a child over to someone who murdered her parents. He stepped closer. You know something doesn't add up. I have orders. What if those orders are lies? He held out the chip. 5 minutes. Vesha stared at it, jaw working. Then she took it. She moved to her desk and pulled up files. Owen watched her face. He saw the moment her mask cracked, widening eyes, sharp breath, fingers tightening on the desk. She read for 7 minutes, then straightened, expression blank. This changes nothing. Vesha. Captain Kane, the High Council approved these protocols. My duty is to execute them. Your duty is to protect people. He moved closer. You read what they plan to do. What I do is not your concern. You brought me here because you know this is wrong. You understand nothing, but her voice shook. I took an oath. Breaking it would make me a traitor. And keeping it when it means torture makes you what? He stopped close. Senna trusted you. Her hand pressed against his chest, right over his heart. Desperation in the touch. You do not understand what you are asking, she said, voice raw. If I defy orders, I can never return home. My family will be questioned. Everything I am will be destroyed. Owen covered her hand, feeling the tremor. Everything you've built is based on suppressing what you feel. I am afraid. The whisper cost her everything. Afraid of what I feel near you. Afraid of how much I care about that child. Afraid I will lose control. You're not losing control. You're finding it. His hand cupped her jaw. Real control is choosing what you do with feelings. She leaned into his touch. They stood close, her heat radiating, pulse visible at her throat. What do you want me to do? Choose. He held her gaze. What do you want, Vesha? The door burst open. Rez stood with weapon drawn. Captain, Dr. Hale has been communicating with colonial authorities. He's a security risk. Vesha pulled away, turning to face Rez. Owen watched her rebuild walls, shoulders straightening, expression cold. Explain. Communication logs show transmissions to colony space. The human has been feeding information to his people. Rez glared at Owen. I request permission to confine him to the brig. Dr. Hale is under my protection. Lower your weapon. Your judgment has been compromised. I cannot allow. You cannot allow? Vesha's voice dropped dangerously. I am your commanding officer. Lower your weapon. Rez lowered it, but didn't holster. I request you relinquish command. Your actions suggest emotional compromise that makes you unfit for this mission. Silence stretched. Owen saw Vesha's hand move to her weapon, saw the moment crystallize. Request denied. Return to your quarters and remain there until further notice. Then you leave me no choice. Rez raised his weapon again. By authority of the Verdani Enforcement Corps and Code 7 protocols, I am relieving you of command. Submit peacefully, Captain. Vesha's blade was in her hand instantly. She positioned herself between Rez and Owen with absolute commitment. Choose carefully, Enforcer. I will not ask again. Owen's heart hammered. He saw Rez's finger tighten on the trigger, saw Vesha shift her weight in preparation, and realized one of them was about to die. Then Vesha's comm chirped. A cold, authoritative voice cut through the tension. Captain Kane, this is Director Vorum. I have been monitoring your vessel and have become aware of irregularities in your mission execution. You are hereby ordered to secure the anomaly and the human doctor, maintain current heading, and prepare for immediate transfer upon arrival in Verdani space. Any deviation from these orders will be considered an act of sedition, and I have dispatched 3 enforcement vessels to ensure compliance. They will arrive at your position in 14 hours. Do you understand? Vesha's hand tightened on her blade. She looked at Rez, then at Owen, and something in her expression shifted, determination settling over fear like armor over skin. I understand perfectly, Director, she said into the comm. We will await your ships. The comm went silent. Rez smiled, weapon still raised. You see, Captain, there is no path forward but obedience. Lower your blade and accept that some battles cannot be won. Vesha looked at Owen. Their eyes met, and he saw the question there, the last moment of doubt before she committed herself completely. Owen nodded once. Vesha turned back to Rez, and when she spoke, her voice carried absolute certainty. You're right that some battles cannot be won, but this isn't one of them. She moved. Vesha's blade caught Rez across the wrist. His weapon clattered to the deck. She had him disarmed and on his knees in 3 seconds, blade at his throat. Crew members loyal to Captain Kane, report to Armory immediately, she said into her comm. We are altering course. Anyone who challenges my command can join Enforcer Rez in the brig. 5 voices confirmed loyalty, 3 stayed silent. Secure the dissidents, non-lethal force only. Within 20 minutes, Rez and 2 others were confined. Vesha stood on the bridge, pulling up navigation charts. We're going to fake a critical systems failure. It'll buy us time to reach Kelmar's gate. Her fingers flew across the display. From there, we scatter. Owen stepped forward. You're not doing this alone. She looked at him. Once Vorum's ships find us gone, there will be a manhunt. You could return to the colony. I'm not leaving you, and I'm not leaving Senna. We're in this together. Something passed between them, unspoken but absolute. Vesha nodded. Navigation, set course. Engineering, create a cascading systems failure that looks catastrophic but leaves us propulsion and life support. Owen checked on Senna, finding her awake, eyes wide. It's going to be all right, he said. Vesha's going to keep you safe. I know, Senna's small hand found his. She chose us. I felt it. The ship lurched as the fake failure began. Alarms blared. Vesha's voice came over the comm, reporting malfunctions with perfect panic. Then she cut the comm and the ship went dark except for emergency lighting. Silent running. We have 12 hours before Vorum's ships reach our last position. 8 hours later, proximity alarms screamed. 3 Verdani enforcement vessels dropped out of faster-than-light travel ahead of them. They tracked us, Vesha said, voice tight. Someone sent a signal before we secured them. Can we run? Not fast enough. Vesha's hands moved across controls. We're going to have to land somewhere they can't follow easily. She pulled up a chart of the nearest moon, harsh terrain, thin atmosphere. There. If we crash land near the southern canyons, the terrain will force them to come on foot. The Verdani ships opened fire. Vesha threw the vessel into evasive maneuvers. The first shot glanced off their shields. The second punched through and tore into the engine compartment. We're going down, all crew, secure for crash landing. Owen grabbed Senna and strapped them into crash couches. Vesha worked the controls, using what was left of their propulsion to angle their descent. The moon's surface rushed up, rocky, hostile, beautiful. They hit hard. The ship tore through rock and sand. Owen held Senna tight as the world became violence and noise, then stillness. Everyone alive? Vesha called out. Groans and confirmations. Owen was already moving, combat medic instincts taking over. He assessed injuries, applied field dressings. We need to move, Vesha said. The Verdani ships are landing 2 kilometers north. They'll have ground teams here in 30 minutes. They gathered supplies, weapons, medical equipment, water, rations. Vesha led them south into the canyon system. Senna rode on Owen's back, silent and watchful. An hour later, pulse fire echoed through the canyons. Keep moving, Vesha ordered her crew. Get to the southern extraction point. No, Owen said, we fight together. She looked at him and he saw her calculations shift. She nodded. Then we make our stand at the canyon junction ahead. They reached it with minutes to spare. Vesha positioned her crew while Owen found cover for Senna. You're afraid, the child whispered. Yeah, I am. Owen knelt beside her, but I'm not leaving you, neither is Vesha. I know, I can feel how much you both care. It's warm like sunlight. Owen's throat tightened. Then the first Verdani enforcers appeared, and there was no more time. The firefight was brutal. Vesha moved like water, her combat skills honed over years. Owen provided covering fire, but they were outnumbered 3-1. Then Senna stood up. "Get down," Owen shouted. But Senna stepped into the open, small and fragile in the harsh moonlight. Her skin began to glow, patterns flickering across the surface. Owen felt it hit him, a surge of emotion so pure it made his breath catch. Not fear, not manipulation, connection, understanding, the feeling of being seen and valued despite every flaw. The Verdani enforcers staggered. Several dropped their weapons. Senna's empathic pulse washed over them, carrying everything she was, the possibility of feeling without losing control, of connection without losing identity. One enforcer dropped to his knees, tears streaming. I remember what it was like before the conditioning." Another lowered his weapon. "What is this?" "It's what we gave up," said a female enforcer, voice breaking. "What they took from us and told us was weakness." Rez emerged, weapon raised and aimed at Vesha. "Lies. The child is manipulating you. This is exactly why she's dangerous." "No." The first enforcer stood, moving between Rez and Vesha. "This is why she's necessary. Vorum lied to us. We've been living half alive, and I won't go back to that." 3 more enforcers joined him. Rez looked around, seeing his support crumble. Vesha moved. Her blade found his weapon hand, disarming him. She pressed him against the canyon wall, blade at his throat. "I could kill you," she said quietly, "but unlike Vorum, I still believe in giving people the choice to be better." She stepped back, lowering the blade. "Go back to your ship. Tell Vorum that Captain Vesha Kane is dead, killed in the crash. Then decide what kind of enforcer you want to be." Rez stared at her. Then he turned and walked away, his remaining troops following. The defecting enforcers approached. "Captain, we request asylum." "Granted, we stick together from here." Vesha looked at Owen, at Senna, at the ragged group who'd chosen conscience over orders. "All of us." A ship descended, colonial design, Commander Torvin's insignia. Dr. Chen appeared at the cargo ramp, waving them aboard. "I've been tracking your ship since you left the colony. Figured you might need extraction." They boarded quickly. Torvin stood on the bridge, expression grim but satisfied. "Captain Kane, Dr. Hale, you've created quite the interstellar incident. The Verdani government is demanding your return." Vesha asked, "And we're granting asylum to anyone who requests it. Director Vorum's files are being reviewed by multiple governments now, thanks to Dr. Chen's intelligence distribution." Relief washed through Owen. He looked at Vesha and saw the same emotion mirrored. "What about Senna?" she asked. "There's a settlement on Turius IV that specializes in interspecies integration," Torvin said. "They've agreed to take her in, provide education, help her understand and control her abilities. She'll have other children around her." Owen knelt beside Senna. "What do you think?" Senna looked at him, then at Vesha, and smiled. "Will you both be there?" Owen glanced at Vesha. She moved to kneel beside him, and for the first time since he'd met her, she looked peaceful. "Yes," Vesha said simply, "we'll both be there." 3 months later, Owen stood at the edge of the settlement playground, watching Senna chase after 2 human children and a young Verdani in a game that involved more laughter than rules. She'd blossomed here, her abilities channeled into helping other children understand their emotions. Warm fingers laced through his. Vesha stood beside him, her hair loose in the evening breeze, wearing civilian clothes that still somehow made her look like a warrior. "She's happy," Vesha said softly. "She is." Owen squeezed her hand. "So am I." Vesha turned to face him, and in the golden light her jade eyes seemed to glow. "I don't know how to build a life around choosing love instead of duty. I'm still figuring out who I am without my rank." "Then we'll figure it out together." Owen lifted her hand and pressed his lips to her knuckles, one moment of courage at a time. Vesha smiled, the real smile that transformed her entire face, and pulled him closer. When she kissed him, it was with the fierce certainty of someone who'd stopped running from what she felt and started running toward it instead. Senna's laughter echoed across the playground, bright and clear and full of hope. And Owen realized that sometimes the most important battles weren't won with weapons or strategy. They were one with the simple, terrifying choice to open your heart to someone different from you and trust that the connection between you was stronger than any force trying to pull you apart.